So we absolutely have to talk about the Cybertruck because we have a bit of bad news. Now, while this was a car that was posted and talked about so often on Twitter, and it had so many people talking about the design, either you loved it or either you hated it, we have to talk about where we are now in terms of the Cybertruck. Because the original idea was that this was going to be a vehicle that was going to help the overall company just go to the moon, just because so many people were willing to go ahead and line up to buy this vehicle. But the reality is, the demand does not look so well. In fact, we recently got news that Tesla began offering discounts on new Cybertrucks. And of course, the reason why the price of the Cybertruck is now falling down is of course to stir up demand. If people are not biting at this price area, we're gonna have to lower it so you could kind of reel people in to have that appetite to go ahead and buy the car at a lower price. And so it's a very obvious sign that demand is waning. Now, it is true that in 2024, the Cybertruck outsold the Ford Lightning F-150, and I could make a completely whole video talking about why it's very likely that the Lightning F-150 didn't do too well, but we're not gonna go ahead and go there because that would be a whole extra long video. And I wanna go ahead and talk about, well, what's going on with the Cybertruck. See, the reality is that we have increased competition from new EV models across the industry, which is eroding Tesla's market share.
This is bad.
It's no longer just a few cars in the game and a few cars that you could pick from. We have a lot of options, especially when it comes to EV trucks. In fact, not only do you have the F-150 Lightning, we have the Chevy Silverado EV, the GMC Hummer, Sierra EVs, the Rivian R1T. I mean, the list goes on, which is causing the demand for the Cybertruck to go down. See, when you have more options available, the market share for Tesla starts to shrink, and the demand gets kind of split between all these other options. Now, of course, the reason why this is important to really consider is because guess what? We had this date of 1/29/25 right around the corner, which is when Tesla is expected to release its earnings. We get this fundamental update on Tesla, and here is why we want to go ahead and pay attention to this. See, when we look at the income statement for Tesla from the last quarter, we see that automotive revenues still accounts for 70% of the company's total revenues. That's a large portion of the business that relies on cars being sold. And I know what people are gonna say. They're gonna say, Justin, but what about the robots, right? What about Optimus? What about fully self-driving? And we'll go ahead and touch on that. But one of the things we have to kind of consider is that it's very difficult to kind of really bet on Tesla right now with the Optimus spots, especially since we don't have any that are being sold, right? In fact, in one of the previous earnings calls, they asked Elon, well, how many have you made so far? And it's really been only a few of them. I think it was like 4 of them that they mentioned, and they're looking to expand to have thousands of them, but it's really hard to justify what the value of Tesla is just on the robots when we haven't even sold any, right? It's just kind of a concept. And I know people are gonna point to, you know, the robo-taxi day where we had them being controlled by people and being spoken by people, but it really isn't something tangible that we could base the fundamental value for Tesla on. And so it's kind of like taking a big bet. And so when we're taking a look at how Tesla makes its revenues, it's very obvious that it's not rocket science. It's not like a very difficult equation that you have to do all this hard math on. It's a very simple equation. It's more like 1 + 1 = 2. Although you'll be surprised that there'll probably be people that disagree with that answer of 1 + 1 = 2, but that's nonetheless, we'll ignore those people for now. Let's go ahead and talk about something else, and that's the fact that Tesla recently saw its first ever drop in annual vehicle sales. And so despite the Cybertruck rolling out, the real concern is that Tesla isn't selling enough vehicles, and this is really gonna go ahead and hurt how the business actually does, because investors, right, people on Wall Street, people with large amount of capital, we're not talking about individual retail investors, we're talking about people who are looking to get a return on their capital and are looking at companies and not trying to gamble and take big bets. They're gonna say, well, wait a minute, why should I buy more at this value when the numbers are decreasing, right? The fundamentals don't look right. In fact, when you take a look at the PE ratio, you see that Tesla is pretty expensive right now. People are paying a high premium for the company, and that's not a bad thing when you have a huge expectation that things are going to come out well in the future. But the problem is it's still a bit of a gamble, especially with FSD, especially with the robots. FSD take rates are still really low. In fact, Tesla has months where they give out FSD for free, and they have very few people signing up and converting to actual customers. And that's a huge problem. It seems like FSD at this current time is more of a gimmick than an actual, product of utility. But of course, stocks don't just move only based on the fundamentals. It's moved based on whether people are buying or selling. It's very simple, right? If more people are buying a stock, that pushes the order books up. If more people are selling a stock, well, that pushes it down. And so what causes people to buy and sell? Well, traditionally, it's going to be the fundamental value, but there's so many different other perspectives that you could look at. And one of the main things that has really driven Tesla stock to these high values where we currently are, a really just tight-knit relationship that we have with Elon and the Trump administration. See, the idea is that, look, we're going to have deregulation, and that's going to go ahead and help it make it easier for FSDs to succeed. Now, the problem is, even if FSD succeeds, are we going to have more people using it and actually subscribing or not, right? That's the real question. Now, of course, we're going to see a huge change in the price for Tesla once the earnings come out. And the question, of course, that we want to talk about is whether or not we're going to go ahead and breach the highs of $488.54 by the end of the month. Now, of course, like I said, it's not just based on the fundamentals. There's so many different aspects and variables that could influence whether people decide to buy or sell Tesla stock. And so we're going to go ahead and see how things develop. Of course, Trump just stepped into office. There's supposedly going to be a lot of change. And what we're doing now is trying to watch and see the change unfold. Is it going to be really beneficial for Tesla stock? Or is it really not going to do much? And so that's what we're going to be watching out for. Now, for those interested, I do have a free weekly market post insight where all you have to do is type in your email and I send out a weekly market post talking about what are things that I'm looking at for the market. And again, guys, it's completely free. I just sent out one for today. And if you don't want to miss out on the next one, just simply check out the link in the description below. I'll also pin it in the comment section. This way you guys don't miss out. And we'll continue to have the conversation of what's going on with the market. And then in the Push and Profit private group, I'll continue to go ahead and talk about what are my thoughts for Tesla and what are my thoughts on any other individual stock that I'm actually looking at. So with that said, hopefully you guys found some value in today's video, and I'll see you guys on this next video right over here. Take care, guys.